The Dominion had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Their ships were massive things of black metal and purple light. Their soldiers numbered in the billions. Their empire stretched across 200 worlds, and every species they had ever met had bent the knee or been destroyed. Archon sat upon his throne made of the bones of conquered kings. He was old, even by standards. His gray skin was marked with the ritual scars of 100 victories. His 4 eyes had watched worlds burn. His clawed hands had signed the death warrants of entire civilizations. He feared nothing in the universe because nothing in the universe had ever given him reason to fear. When his scouts discovered the small blue planet at the edge of the Orion Arm, he barely paid attention. It was just another world, just another species to crush. His advisors told him the creatures there called themselves humans. They had only recently learned to leave their own moon. They were primitive, weak, divided into hundreds of small tribes that constantly fought each other. Had laughed at that. A species that could not even unite itself would fall in days. He ordered his fleet to send the standard message. It was the same message the Dominion had sent to 200 worlds before. Surrender, submit, serve, or die. The transmission reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. In New York, a young woman named Sarah was eating lunch when every screen in the city changed. The alien face appeared everywhere. It spoke in a voice that had been translated into every human language at once. The message was simple and cruel. Humanity had 30 days to surrender their planet. They would become slaves of the Dominion. Their strongest would be taken for labor. They would be taken for study. The rest would serve however the Dominion saw fit. If they refused, their cities would be burned from orbit. Their species would be erased from existence. They had done it before. They would do it again. Sarah watched the message with millions of others. She expected panic. She expected screaming and crying and chaos. But something strange happened instead. People looked at each other. They looked at the sky. And then they looked back at the screens with something in their eyes that they had never seen before. It was not fear, it was anger. Across the world, the reaction was the same. In Tokyo, soldiers reported for duty without being called. In Moscow, old enemies shook hands and began planning together. In Beijing, factories that made cars started making weapons. In Washington, the president addressed the nation with a calm voice and steady hands. "They have made a mistake," she said. "They do not know what we are." They watched from their ships in orbit. They had seen this before, they thought. The initial resistance, the brave words. It always faded when the bombs started falling. Every species was the same in the end. They all broke. But their observers noticed something strange in the data. The humans were not building shelters. They were not evacuating their cities. They were not preparing to hide. They were preparing to fight. One scientist, a young female named, ran the numbers 3 times because she could not believe what she was seeing. Human military production had increased by 400% in just 1 week. Old weapons were being pulled from storage. New weapons were being designed. The entire species was transforming itself into a war machine with a speed that should not have been possible. She brought her findings to her commander, a veteran named. He dismissed her concerns with a wave of his clawed hand. "They are primitives," he said. "They have projectile weapons and simple explosives. Our shields will stop anything they can throw at us. Their bravery is meaningless." Was not so sure. She had studied the human transmissions. She had learned their history, and what she found disturbed her deeply. These creatures had been at war with themselves since they first learned to pick up rocks. They had invented weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They had killed each other by the millions in conflicts over land, resources, ideas, and sometimes just pride. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that would have wiped out most species. Their planet was not a garden world. It was a death world. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. The other creatures that lived there were nightmares of teeth and claws and venom. Everything on that small blue planet had evolved to kill or be killed. And the humans had risen to the top. Tried to explain this to, she showed him images of human predators, lions, sharks, bears. She showed him footage of human soldiers training in conditions that would kill in hours. She showed him the bombs they had built to destroy themselves. Was not impressed. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had never lost. "Send the ground forces," he ordered. "We will crush them in 30 days as promised. Their anger means nothing. Their weapons mean nothing. They are alone in the universe, and we are the Dominion." Back on Earth, General Maria stood in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She was 60 years old. She had fought in 3 wars. She had scars on her body and ghosts in her mind. When she heard the alien ultimatum, she had smiled. Her aide, a young captain named Tors, asked her why she was not afraid. Looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death to fear it anymore. "They think they are predators," she said. "They think they are the hunters and we are the prey. They have no idea what they have done." She pulled up a map of the world on her screen. It showed every military base, every factory, every ship and plane and soldier on the planet. All of them were moving. All of them were preparing. "Humanity has spent 10,000 years learning how to kill," said. "We have practiced on each other. We have perfected it. We have built weapons that can crack the planet in half. And now, for the first time in our history, we have a target that is not ourselves." She turned to face her staff. Men and women from every nation on Earth stood together in that bunker. Old enemies, ancient rivals, all of them united by a single truth. "They threatened our home," said. "They threatened our children, they threatened our future, and they expect us to surrender." She laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Let them come. Let them see what happens when you threaten a death world. Let them learn why nothing else on our planet could kill us." Above the Earth, the fleet hung in the darkness of space. They had no idea what was coming. They had made the worst mistake any species could make. They had given humanity a reason to unite. And humanity was ready for war. News traveled fast across the galaxy. The communication networks that connected 1,000 worlds carried the story within hours. The Dominion had found a new species. They had sent their ultimatum. Another world would fall. No one was surprised. The Dominion had been doing this for 10,000 years. Species rose, species fell, and they grew stronger with each conquest. It was simply the way of things. But this time, something was different. Ambassador of though was an old diplomat. His species was gentle and peaceful. They had surrendered to the Dominion 3,000 years ago without a fight. It was the logical choice. They were thinkers, not fighters. They had looked at the math and known they could not win. Now they served the Dominion as bureaucrats and scholars. They had comfort and safety. They had lost their freedom, but they had survived. When heard about the humans, he felt a familiar sadness. Another young species about to be crushed. Another culture that would be erased or enslaved. He had seen it happen so many times. The Galactic conquered, a small group of free species that lived beyond the Dominion's reach asked to visit Earth. They wanted to offer the humans a choice. A few thousand could escape. They could live as refugees among the free peoples. It was not much, but it was something. Agreed to go, it was the least he could do. His ship landed in Geneva in a place the humans called the United Nations. He expected to find chaos. He expected grief and fear and desperation. He had seen it on 100 worlds before their fall. What he found instead made his blood run cold. The humans were not afraid, they were angry, and they were getting ready. Watch the screens in the meeting room with growing horror. Human factories were running day and night. Weapons were being built by the millions. Ships were being constructed in orbit using technology they had stolen from probes and improved upon in just weeks. "This is impossible," whispered. "You have had for less than a century. You cannot build a war fleet in months." The human sitting across from him was a tall woman with dark skin and calm eyes. Her name was Doctor, and she was one of Earth's leading scientists. "We learn fast," she said simply, "when we have to." Shook his head. "You do not understand. The Dominion has 10,000 ships, billions of soldiers, technology that is centuries ahead of yours. You cannot win this war." Doctor smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You are thinking like prey," she said. "You look at the numbers and see defeat. We look at the numbers and see a challenge." She pulled up more images on the screen, saw human soldiers training in snow and desert and jungle. He saw them fighting in conditions that would kill most species. He saw them smile while bleeding. He saw them refuse to stop even when their bodies were broken. "Your species surrendered because it was logical," Doctor said. "You calculated the odds and chose survival. We understand that. But humans are not logical creatures, Ambassador. We are something else entirely." Felt a strange emotion stirring in his chest, something he had not felt in 3,000 years. Hope. "What are you?" he asked. Doctor stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city was alive with activity. Trucks carried weapons. Soldiers marched in formation. Children watched the sky with fierce eyes. We are the children of a death world, she said. Our planet has tried to kill us since we first crawled out of the mud. Ice ages, plagues, predators, natural disasters. And when nature could not kill us, we tried to kill each other. We have been at war for 10,000 years, Ambassador. We have perfected the art of destruction. She turned to face him. They think they are conquerors. They think they are strong because they have never met anything that could challenge them. But they have lived soft lives on gentle worlds. They have never known true struggle. They have never had to fight for every breath. Understood then. He understood why the free species of the galaxy feared Earth. He understood why some of them had wanted to destroy humanity before they could spread beyond their planet. Humans were not civilized in the way other species were civilized. They were barely contained chaos. They were violence given form. And now, for the first time in their history, they had a target that was not themselves. You cannot win, said again, but his voice was uncertain now. Doctor laughed. Perhaps not. Perhaps they will destroy us, but we will not surrender, we will not kneel, and before we fall we will make them bleed. We will make them remember the name of our world. We will make them fear the darkness between the stars. Returned to his ship that night. He sat alone in the darkness for a long time, thinking about what he had seen. Then he opened a secure channel to the Galactic Concord and began his report. The humans will not accept evacuation, he said. They are preparing to fight, and I believe they may actually have a chance. He paused, searching for the right words. I have studied many species in my long life. I have seen the brave and the cowardly, the strong and the weak, but I have never seen anything like humanity. They are not logical, they are not reasonable, they are something far more dangerous. He took a deep breath. They are survivors, they are predators, and they have been waiting their entire existence for something worthy of their full attention. They have given them that. They have united them, and I fear that the galaxy will never be the same. His final words would echo through history. Do not provoke the death, do not threaten their home, do not give them a reason to turn their eyes to the stars, because once they do, nothing will stop them, nothing. In orbit above Earth, the fleet prepared for invasion. Commander looked down at the blue planet with contempt. He had heard the rumors spreading through the galaxy. He had heard the whispers about death worlds and dangerous primitives. He did not believe any of it. Begin the landing, he ordered. Show these humans what happens when they defy the Dominion. His ships descended toward Earth. 50,000 soldiers, the finest warriors in the Empire. They expected an easy victory. They had no idea that they were about to meet humanity for the first time. And humanity was ready to teach them a lesson they would never forget. The landing ships fell from the sky like black rain. They came down in 3 continents at once. North America, Europe, Asia, 50,000 soldiers in perfect formation, armed with plasma rifles and energy shields. They had conquered 100 worlds this way. They expected Earth to fall just as easily. Commander watched from orbit as his forces touched down. The human cities were quiet. The streets were empty. He smiled with satisfaction. The primitives had fled. They were hiding in their holes, waiting to surrender. Begin the advance, he ordered. Secure the capital cities, find their leaders. This will be over by nightfall. His soldiers moved forward in perfect lines. Their boots made no sound on the pavement. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. They were the finest warriors in the Dominion, bred and trained for nothing but war. They made it 3 blocks before the first explosion. The building on the corner erupted in fire and steel. A squad vanished in the blast. Before the survivors could react, gunfire erupted from every window, every rooftop, every shadow. Human soldiers appeared from nowhere, firing weapons that should have been primitive but somehow were not. They raised their shields. The plasma barriers flickered to life. They were designed to stop energy weapons, the kind that civilized species used. They were not designed to stop chunks of metal moving at 3 times the speed of sound. The human bullets tore through the shields like they were made of paper. Soldiers fell screaming. Their purple blood painted the streets. Their perfect formations collapsed into chaos. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General watched the battle unfold on a dozen screens. Her officers reported victory after victory, ambush after ambush. They were dying by the hundreds. They expected us to fight fair, she said quietly. They expected us to stand in lines and shoot at each other like they have no idea who they are dealing with. She turned to her communications officer. Send the order, Phase 2. Across the world, human forces changed tactics. They stopped defending and started hunting. In Berlin, a patrol entered an abandoned subway station. They never came out. Human soldiers had flooded the tunnels and waited in the darkness. They attacked with knives and bare hands. They screamed for help, but no help came. In Tokyo, a commander tried to establish a base in a high-rise building. Human snipers picked off his soldiers one by one from buildings a mile away. When he tried to evacuate, he found the streets filled with traps. His entire unit was dead within an hour. In Chicago, they attempted to use their air support. Human anti-aircraft weapons filled the sky with fire. The alien ships burned and fell. Their pilots ejected and landed in enemy territory. None of them survived the night. Commander received report after report of disaster. His forces were being slaughtered. His best soldiers were dying to creatures they had dismissed as primitives. Nothing made sense. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They have no shields, no plasma weapons, no advanced technology. How are they winning?" His science officers stepped forward. Her face was pale with fear. "Commander, I have been studying their tactics. They do not fight like any species we have encountered. They do not follow rules. They do not respect conventions. They use everything as a weapon. Buildings, vehicles, the weather itself." She pulled up a video on the command screen. It showed a human soldier fighting a warrior in hand-to-hand combat. It was larger, stronger, faster. It should have won easily. The human did not care about should. He bit the alien's throat. He gouged its eyes. He used its own weapon against it. When the fell, the human was covered in purple blood and smiling. "They enjoy this," whispered. "They are not fighting because they have to. They are fighting because they want to. Violence is not a tool for them. It is their nature." Watched the video in silence. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. On the ground, a young soldier named huddled in the ruins of a destroyed transport. His squad was dead. His weapons were empty. He could hear the humans moving through the darkness around him, hunting for survivors. He had been told that humans were weak. He had been told they would break at the first sign of real war. He had been told this would be an easy conquest. He had been lied to. A human appeared in the doorway. It was a small female, barely half his size. She carried a primitive projectile weapon in her hands. She should have been nothing, a pest, an insect. But her eyes were the eyes of a predator. "Please," whispered in the human language he had been taught. "I surrender. I am a prisoner of war. You must treat me according to Galactic Convention." The human female tilted her head. She seemed to consider his words. "Galactic Convention," she repeated slowly. "You invaded our world, you threatened our families, you plan to enslave our children, and you want us to follow conventions." She raised her weapon. "You made one mistake," she said. "You thought we were like the others, you thought we would be afraid, but we are not any of the species you have conquered before." She stepped closer, her finger tightened on the trigger. "We are humans. We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages and plagues and predators. We fought each other for 10,000 years, and now you have given us someone else to fight." The last thing heard was her final words. "You should have left us alone." 72 hours after the invasion began, Commander ordered a full retreat. His forces had lost 30,000 soldiers. His ground invasion had completely failed. The humans had not just defended their world. They had humiliated the mighty Dominion. In the bunker beneath the mountains, General received the news of the retreat with a grim smile. Her officers celebrated around her. They had won the first battle. But knew this was just the beginning. "They will be back," she said. "They will bring more ships, more soldiers. They will try to burn us from orbit." She looked at the screens showing the human victories. The footage of her soldiers fighting with savage joy, the images of bodies in the streets. But now they know what we are. Now they know what they are facing, and that fear will spread through their empire like a disease. She turned to her staff. "Prepare Phase 3. We are not going to wait for them to come back. We are going to take the war to them." The hunt was about to begin. The War Council met in the deepest bunker on Earth. Leaders from every nation sat around a single table. Presidents and prime ministers, generals and admirals, scientists and engineers. They had been enemies once. They had pointed weapons at each other for generations. Now they sat together as one species, united by a common cause. The question before them was simple. How should humanity respond to the Dominion? Some argued for defense, build walls around Earth, create a shield that nothing could break, wait for the enemy to give up and go away. Others argued for negotiation. They had been hurt. Perhaps they would accept peace. Perhaps they would leave humanity alone if asked nicely. General listened to these arguments in silence. When everyone had finished speaking, she stood and walked to the center of the room. "You are thinking like prey," she said. "You are thinking like the species that came before us, the ones who surrendered, the ones who hid, the ones who begged for mercy and received none." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed the Dominion, 200 conquered worlds, billions of enslaved beings, 10,000 years of cruelty and oppression. "This is what we are facing," said. "An empire built on bones, a civilization that knows only conquest. They will not stop because we hurt them once. They will not negotiate because we ask them to. They will come back with more ships and more soldiers. They will keep coming until we are dead or enslaved." She looked around the table. "There is only one response they will understand. Total war, complete destruction. We do not just defend Earth. We take the fight to them. We burn their shipyards. We destroy their fleets. We free the species they have enslaved. We tear their empire apart piece by piece until nothing remains." The room was silent for a long moment. "That is genocide," someone said quietly. "You are talking about destroying an entire civilization." Turned to face the speaker, her eyes were hard as stone. "They threatened our children. They planned to enslave our species. They would have burned our cities and erased our culture. And you want to show them mercy?" She shook her head. "I do not want genocide. I want justice. I want to free the 100 species living under their boot. I want to make sure they can never threaten anyone ever again. If that means destroying their military completely, so be it. If that means burning their throne worlds, so be it. They started this war. We are going to finish it." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would not just survive. Humanity would conquer. The next 3 months were a blur of activity. Human scientists worked day and night. They studied the captured technology. They improved it. They made it better. They built weapons the galaxy had never seen. Human factories produced warships at impossible speeds. Designs that should have taken decades were completed in weeks. Workers lived in the factories, sleeping in shifts, driven by something they could not understand. It was not just determination. It was not just courage. It was spite, pure, burning, endless spite. They had threatened humanity's home. They had tried to take everything humans had built, and humans would make them pay for that mistake with blood and fire. The first human attack came 6 months after the failed invasion. A supply station on the edge of their territory detected unknown ships approaching. They sent out a standard warning. The response was a wave of missiles that turned the station into dust. The human fleet did not stop to celebrate. They moved on to the next target, and the next, and the next. Commander received the reports with growing horror. Human ships were everywhere. They were faster than anything the Dominion had. Their weapons were stronger. Their tactics were unpredictable. And they took no prisoners. "They are not supposed to be able to do this," said. "They had no space fleet 6 months ago. How do they have 300 warships now?" No one had an answer. The High Command sent a diplomatic ship to negotiate. They offered peace. They offered to leave Earth alone forever. They offered trade agreements and technology sharing. They offered everything they could think of. The human response was a single transmission, a list of every species the Dominion had enslaved, every world they had burned, every atrocity they had committed in 10,000 years of conquest. At the bottom of the list was one sentence: "We are coming for all of it." Archon himself finally took notice. The ancient ruler of the Dominion had ignored the human problem, leaving it to his commanders. Now he saw that had been a mistake. He gathered his full fleet, 10,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled in the history of the Dominion. He would crush these humans personally. He would burn their planet to ash and scatter their bones across the galaxy. "They are animals," he declared. "Primitive beasts who got lucky. We will remind them of their place in the universe." But even as he spoke, his advisors brought him troubling news. The enslaved species across the Dominion were growing restless. They had heard about Earth. They had heard about the humans who refused to kneel. They had heard about the who were making the mighty afraid. And they were starting to hope. On a prison world called, the aquatic whispered in their cells. On the factory planet of Kith Prime, the was stopped working and began planning. On 100 worlds, enslaved beings looked up at the stars and imagined freedom. Admiral James stood on the bridge of the human flagship, the UES Consequence. He was a quiet man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his life preparing for wars that never came. Now he was leading humanity's first interstellar campaign. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors show the fleet assembling near there, 10,000 ships at least." Nodded slowly. "They are gathering their strength for one final push. They think if they can destroy us here, the war will be over." He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there Earth waited, his home, his family, everything he had ever known. "Send a message to the fleet," he said. "Tell them we are not going to Earth, we are going to them. We are going to hit them before they can hit us, and we are going to end this war once and for all." The human fleet changed course, 300 ships against 10,000. Any other species would have called it suicide. Humans called it a fair fight. Smiled grimly. "They wanted to see what humans can do. Let us show them. Let us show the entire galaxy what happens when you threaten." The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. The final battle was about to begin. The war lasted 11 years. 11 years of fire and blood. 11 years of battles across 100 star systems. 11 years of humanity doing what it did best, surviving, adapting, and destroying anything that tried to stop it. The first year was the hardest. They had numbers and experience. They had been conquering worlds for 10,000 years. They knew every trick, every strategy, every way to break an enemy. But they had never fought humans before. Admiral led his fleet into the heart of the Dominion with 300 ships. They expected them to attack military targets. Instead, hit their supply lines, their fuel stations, their communication relays. He did not fight battles he could not win. He simply made sure the enemy could not fight at all. Within 6 months, the great war machine was starving. Ships sat in port without fuel. Soldiers went without food. The empire that had never known defeat was crumbling from within. Archon raged in his palace. He ordered his commanders to find and destroy the human fleet. But every time they found it, the humans disappeared. They struck without warning and vanished like ghosts. They were everywhere and nowhere at once. The second year brought something they feared even more than human weapons. Revolution. Across the Dominion, enslaved species rose up. They flooded their underwater cities and drowned their masters. They stopped building weapons and started using them against their captors. The gentle scholars who had surrendered without a fight 3,000 years ago began poisoning the they served. Human soldiers appeared among the rebels. They brought weapons and training. They taught the enslaved how to fight back. They showed them that they were not gods. They were just another species that could bleed and die. Ambassador, the old diplomat who had first visited Earth, watched his people fight for the first time in. Tears ran down his wrinkled face. "You did this," he said to the human advisor beside him. "You showed us that resistance was possible. You reminded us what we had forgotten." The human was a young woman named Sophia. She had lost her family in the initial attack on Earth. She had spent the last 2 years liberating worlds. "We did not do anything," she said. "We just showed you the truth. You were never meant to be slaves. None of you were. You just needed someone to remind you." By the 5th year, the Dominion was falling apart. Their conquered worlds were breaking free one by one. Their fleet was shrinking. Their economy was collapsing. Archon tried everything. He offered peace. He offered surrender. He offered to free all the enslaved species if humanity would just stop. Admiral sent back a simple response. Too late. The human fleet grew larger each year. Species that had been freed joined the fight. Technology was shared. Ships were built. An alliance formed around a simple idea: never again would they threaten anyone. In the 9th year, humanity reached the... It was a beautiful planet. Purple forests, silver oceans, cities of crystal and gold. 10 billion lived there, the heart of an empire that had once ruled 200 worlds. Admiral looked down at it from the bridge of the Consequence. His fleet surrounded the planet. Thousands of ships from a dozen species, all of them waiting for his order. Archon sent a final transmission. The ancient ruler appeared on screen, his 4 eyes filled with something had never expected to see. Terror. Please, begged. We surrender. We will do anything you ask. Just spare our world, spare our children. I invoke galactic law. I invoke the rights of surrendering combatants. You must show mercy. Was silent for a long moment. Mercy, he said finally. You ask for mercy. Did you show mercy to the 100 species you crushed under your boot? Did you show mercy to the children you took as slaves, to the worlds you burned? He leaned forward. You threatened Earth. You threatened our families. You tried to take everything we had. And now that you are losing, you want us to follow rules you never followed yourselves. Was weeping now. Purple tears streamed down his gray face. I was wrong, he said. We were wrong, please, I am begging you. Thought of his home, his daughter. The years he had spent away from his family fighting this war. He thought of all the humans who had died, all the species who had suffered under rule. The Dominion dies today, he said. But your people will live, not because you deserve mercy, not because you have earned forgiveness, but because we are not like you. We will not destroy your species. We will not enslave your children. We will simply make sure you can never hurt anyone ever again. He gave the order. The human fleet did not bomb the cities. They did not kill civilians. Instead, they destroyed every military installation on the planet, every ship, every weapon, every factory that could build them. The military machine was erased completely. Archon was arrested and put on trial. He faced judgment from every species he had ever wronged. The trial lasted a year. The verdict was death. But the people lived. They were disarmed and watched, but they were not destroyed. Humanity had proven something important that day. They could have committed genocide. They chose not to. They were not monsters. They were just humans. The Galactic Conquered was reborn. 200 worlds joined together in peace. Humanity took its place among the stars, respected and feared in equal measure. A new document was created, the Earth Accords. Every species in the galaxy signed it. The rules were simple: no more empires, no more slavery, no more threatening innocent worlds. And at the bottom, a single warning. Humanity remembers. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive unprovoked aggression. Do not test us. Ambassador stood before the Galactic Assembly on the day the Accords were signed. He was very old now. He had seen the rise and fall of the Dominion. He had seen his own people freed. He had seen the galaxy transformed. I visited Earth once, he said. Before the war, I went to tell them that resistance was futile, that they should accept their fate and submit to the Dominion. He smiled. I was wrong. I had forgotten something important. I had forgotten that some species do not submit. Some species do not break. Some species look at impossible odds and smile. He looked at the human delegation, men and women who had fought across 100 star systems, who had freed billions from slavery, who had done the impossible. They call Earth a death world. They say humans are dangerous, violent, unpredictable, and perhaps that is true. But I have seen another side of them. I have seen them risk their lives to free strangers. I have seen them show mercy to enemies who showed them none. I have seen them build instead of destroy. His voice grew stronger. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They freed it. They taught us that even the mightiest empire can fall. They reminded us that we are not meant to be slaves, and they gave us something we had lost for 10,000 years. He raised his glass. Hope to humanity, the who saved us all. The assembly rose, 1,000 species, billions of beings, all of them raising their voices in thanks. And somewhere far away, on a small blue planet circling an ordinary yellow star, a new generation of humans looked up at the sky. They had been born after the war. They had never known fear of the... But they knew their history. They knew what their parents and grandparents had done. They knew the lesson that the galaxy had learned. Do not threaten Earth. Do not test the... Because humanity remembers. And humanity always responds.